dependable. Be faithful to find and fulfill your niche. So what do you mean by that? Well, have you found your gifting yet? Because you have one. God's given you one. Have you been faithful to develop that? Have you been faithful to discover that? Discovery number 9 is a life of serving others, a living beyond yourself. Have you found the gift? Have you found the niche? Have you found the thing that God desires to do in and through you? Are you faithful in serving others? Have you developed faithfulness in being a selfless servant? How faithful are you in preferring others? How faithful are you serving in the home? How faithful are you serving your spouse? How faithful are you having that mindset, that attitude that Jesus desires for us to develop is serving others? Jesus said, I've only come to do 2 things. That's to serve and to give. And as he was here living, he served with everything that was in him, and eventually he gave his life on the cross. Are you willing to serve? How good is your serve? Where is your fit? Ephesians 2:10, for we are God's handiwork, recreated in Christ Jesus, that we may do those good works that God has planned beforehand for us, taking paths which he prepared ahead of time that we should walk in them, living the good life. I noticed several words there. God has a good plan to give you a good life, to do good works. You know, if a Christian doesn't want to serve, I start asking the question, wow, how authentic is their relationship with God? Because I believe that authentic Christians take on a servant's mentality. They see it modeled in the life of Jesus, where he draped the towel over his arm and he was willing to serve. He was willing to put others first. He was willing to prefer others, to meet the needs of others. So I believe that when we can develop that, maturity is not just what we believe. Maturity is what we become. And what we become affects how we behave. And if we're not seeing a life with acts of service and acts of kindness and people being willing to serve in the house of the Lord, to serve one another just in a lifestyle and in an attitude, and in turn serve the needs of those in the world, maybe we need to check our heart and see, what are we becoming? You just get a church full of selfless servants, people who have this servant's mindset, this servant's mentality. Our arms get longer. Our reach is further when we all take on this attitude of, I'm going to be faithful to serve with what God has gifted me with. Maybe you don't know your gift, and we can help you do that. We can help you find. Here's another 30-day challenge. Over the next 30 days, let's discover what your gift is. Let's discover what it is that you're good at. What are you passionate about? What gets you excited? And let's begin to use that gift to benefit others. You know, we got our gifts, and we take our gifts and we use them at the workplace to make a paycheck. I'm amazed at how many people are willing to step up and do certain things, work overtime, do extra stuff, do all this kind of stuff to benefit the employer, to benefit the company, and never leverage their gifts in the kingdom. Never leverage their gifts to build the house of God. Serving in the house. I know it's a wild thought. Yeah. But on a regular basis, being faithful to use your gift, being faithful to work with the kids ministry, the youth ministry, being faithful to let God use you to be a part of the worship team, to serve at the doors and receive the offering, to greet and smile at people, to work in the cafe, to find your place, to find your niche. If we could get a church that has a selfless, live beyond yourself, I'm willing to use my gift to serve others. When people begin to discover that, when a church begins to discover that, it is a compassion that begins to flow out of us that moves beyond what any one of us could do as an individual. The church gets so full of that. It's a commitment to the go ye, the Great Commission. You know, that whole thing, the whole reason why we're here. You know, that Great Commission thing. That each one of us would reach somebody else. That each one of us would tell the good news, that each one of us would be that light, be that salt wherever we go. See, your life is at its greatest when you selflessly serve. When you selflessly serve. I'm out of time up there. I think the clock was wrong. All right, discovery number 10. Faithful to live a generous life. Faithful to live a generous life. Developing faithfulness. Faithful in the Word. Faithful in a prayer life. Give God some moments in your day. Faithful to the house of God. Faithful to find your niche, to serve others with the gifts and the talents that God has given to you. And then faithful to live a generous life. That we would be people known by our generosity. That we'd be people who, that faithful man that abounds in the blessing of God, that blessing would flow out of our lives, that abundance would flow out of our lives into other people's lives. See, faithfulness takes you from the few to the many. Faithfulness takes you from the little to the multiplication. When you're faithful, according to Matthew 25, there's increase. They were faithful. The guy with 5 talents was faithful to be a good steward over those 5 talents. And what happened? He increased. The guy that had 2 talents, he was faithful. He was a good steward to what the master had given to him. And what happened with those 2 talents? He increased 2 more. The one who kept a hold of, who was living, the Christian that was living a tight-fisted life, who was trying to hold on to everything in their life with a tight grip. Took the 1 talent and buried it in the ground. Said, oh, well, that's all I got, God. See, faithfulness leads to increase. Unfaithfulness doesn't lead to increase. Unfaithfulness leads to decrease. It's a faithfulness issue. Where there's unfaithfulness, it causes decrease in our life. What you thought you had, you don't really have unless you develop faithfulness. Faithfulness to the things of God. Look at Matthew 25:29. Are you still awake or want to ignore this part? Don't ignore this part. This is a crucial part in our lives. Matthew 25:29. To those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have abundance. But from those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away. Here's my question. Here's my question and my challenge. Are you faithful in your tithes and your offerings to the Lord? Are you faithful? And that faithfulness is based upon the faithfulness of Matthew 25 in that story. Is that the servants received everything that they had from the master. So your faithfulness in returning back to God, being faithful to your tithes and offerings, is based upon this truth. Here's a new thought for some of you. Everything you have in life was given to you by God. I like to call it management, Christian management Skittles. God gave you the whole bag of Skittles. Don't be a 6-year-old and say, mine. God has given you everything that you have in life. Let's don't be a kindergarten Christian and say, mine. Let's realize that God has opened up His life to give His best gift to you and I. And along with that gift named Jesus has come everything else in our lives. It's God's goodness that you have the job that you have. It's God's goodness in your life that you have the family that you have. It's God's goodness in your life that you have the church you have. It's God's goodness in your life that you have everything that you have. It's based upon God giving you, blessing you with those things. The question now is, are you going to be faithful with it?
For more sermons by Pastor Sean Burchett, or to learn more about East Point Community Church, go to www.eastpoint.tv.